Just gonna share my screen. We'll get going. We're gonna talk about buyer consultation today. All right. Before I pull up the slideshow, I guess I should introduce myself, just in case you guys don't know me. My name is Ron with the Zamir Group, Keller Williamstown Life. I'm a buyer specialist on the top team in the entire NJMLS, and I'm here at your service. We're going to talk about buyer consultation today, and the goal is to provide you as much value as I possibly can. Before we get going with the slideshow, is there anything that you want me to discuss a little bit more? A particular area of the buyer consultation discussion presentation you want me to focus on? Anything like that?
Sorry, I sat in yesterday. I wasn't sure if it's the same class, but is it the same class?
It's always a little bit different. You always get a little bit something out of it. Even if it's the same class, I always say repetition is the key to mastery. So you'll always show up and you'll always get something else out of it. So is there anything in particular that you want me to discuss in a little bit more detail, or just do my thing, and then if you have questions, we'll
I think, sorry, I ask a lot of questions, but
yeah.
I, from my past experiences, like, is there anything you can do to keep your buyers' clients, like, like if you see them at open houses, they'll talk to you, they'll be interested, you'll follow up with them. Then you stay in touch with them through phone or text, but they never want to get to that buyer consultation where they have that other meeting. They just kind of like talk to you, or they just ignore your texts or your calls.
It's normal. Yeah, a lot of buyers do that. And they do it because they're not ready, willing, and able at that very moment. The majority of the buyers actually we come across are not ready at that very moment. So if you go to an open house, or you happen to get even a referral, or you meet somebody, much of the time they're not ready at that very moment. So it's a long game. It's not a short game. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. We always have to be following up with them. And if they're not responding back to you, then they're not ready, or we have to hook them in with some value. So always find something to hook them in. Maybe it's a property that might interest them, right? So just keep going until they tell you to stop. Keep going, and I will tell you, they rarely ever tell you to stop. So just keep following up with them. All right. So let's get ready with the slideshow. I'm going to pull it up. Here we go. And I'm going to switch gears when we get to the role play part. I like to do a role play at the end of it. So I'm going to change it up a little bit when we get to that point. Let me just get this. I always have problems with the getting it started. Here we go. All right. So yeah, this is some of the numbers for our team. We're at 162 million this year. I'm a buyer's agent on that team. What does that mean to you? Well, I have a lot of conversations, a lot of meetings, a lot of experiences with buyers. So it allows me to stand here in front of you and share those with you so you can shorten your learning curve. Let's get going. I guess I like starting with a quote. I like this quote. I use it a lot. It's a Conrad Hilton quote. Success seems to be connected with action. Successful people keep moving. They make mistakes, but they don't quit. And I see it a lot in real estate. That's how it relates to our line of work. You have to keep going. We're going to have a lot of frustrating experiences. I can guarantee it with 100% certainty that you will have more frustrating experiences than you will successful ones. Yet you keep going, and then eventually success happens, right? Growth happens, learning happens, you get better. We all have a common goal. That's to be better today than we were yesterday, be better tomorrow than we are today. Let's go. Let's talk about buyer consultation. Okay. There's a short version and a long version of why we do buyer consultations. Before we get into the benefits of a buyer consultation, I always like to ask these questions, and obviously they're rhetorical questions, but I'll tell you what the answers are too. So the majority of the attendees in my virtual classrooms, in my physical classrooms, they all typically have the same responses to these questions. So it's going to be no different here either. And I always ask the question, how many of you, prior to obtaining your real estate license, purchased a home with a real estate agent? I get about half the room that picks up their hand, and they say, well, that's me, and me. And then the follow-up questions, that is very, very, very revealing. And it tells us a lot about our industry and what your traditional agent is doing and not doing. And the follow-up question is, how many of those agents prior to showing you homes, sat you down, discussed the buying process, spoke about the market conditions, discovered what you're looking for, answered any real estate related questions. And the answer is, it's always the same. It doesn't matter if I have 10 people or 100 people. It's usually between 0 and 1. Maybe once I had like 2. So what that tells me is that we have opportunity. Why do we have opportunity? We have an opportunity to be better than the majority of the agents out there just by doing a buyer consultation, having this type of discussion, conducting this type of presentation, right? So just by doing it, we're going to be better than the majority of the buyers agents out there. That's what it tells me. Now, there's another question I always like to ask also. What do you guys think is preventing your traditional agent from conducting a buyer consultation? Why are they not doing it? We already know that the majority of the agents don't do it. The question is, what's preventing them from doing so? What do you guys think?
Maybe they're not aware of the market as much, or they're not on top of it.
Yeah, I could see that. You can't give what you don't have, right? If you don't know the market conditions or you don't know the buying process and how you're going to communicate it, right? Yeah, it's possible, but you still have the ability to ask them a few questions, discover what they're looking for, so you can narrow down, their search criteria. What else?
I just feel like sometimes some people just don't want to take the time to do it. Like they can have all the information and they just don't want to take the time to get it done first.
And I get it, and I hear that's a common objection. I call it an objection because it is so, and we have to handle it. And it's a simple question. What takes longer? Does it take longer to show 30 homes, or does it take longer to sit down for 30 minutes, discover what you're looking for, educate you about the buying process? Which one takes longer?
Showing 30 homes.
Of course, it takes showing homes. Now, it's not our job to show them every single home that's available. Our job is to discover what they're looking for and take them to the right one. That's our job description, right? We don't get a medal or a cookie for showing them the most homes. It just doesn't work that way. The good agents, they're listening for what the client's looking for, and they take them right to it. So again, it doesn't make sense from the perspective that it's going to take you so much more time if you don't sit down with them. What else? What else is preventing them from conducting a strategy session, buyer consultation, discussion, presentation?
Maybe the buyer is anxious to just start looking and doesn't want to offer the time to sit down first.
Yeah, and the objection is, well, I don't have time, right? Well, there's a follow-up question or objection handler that comes right after it. Well, how much time do you have? Oh, I have an hour. Oh, I have 2 hours. I was like, great. Then we have plenty of time. See, it's only going to take us 20 minutes to discuss the buying process, discover what you're looking for, and then we're going to go down the street and see some homes. Sounds good. Great. Wonderful. Thank you. Let's meet at my office. Let's meet at Panera. Let's meet at the gas station. Let's meet wherever you want. And we're going to sit down and discuss the buying process, so you feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident with this whole thing called the buying process. So it's an easy objection to handle. Well, how much time do you have, right?
Or
What else?
The buyer has bought homes before, so
Yeah.
he doesn't need a buyer consultation. That's
Yeah,
what
I've heard that before, and yet do they do it day in and day out, or not? They do not do this day in and day out, right? And how well does a human being retain information? People retain about 10% of the information that they visually see or hear, depending on if you're a better listener or better visually, as far as retaining information goes. So even if they've been through it, it's not the same buying process. Likely, it changed a little bit. It's not the same market conditions. It definitely changed since they purchased last. And they definitely have some questions, and we still need to discover what they're looking for. Just because they bought a home before doesn't mean that they're going to be buying the same type of home. We need to discover exactly what they're looking for with some solid questions. So there's a lot of things that prevent your traditional buyer's agent from conducting one of these consultations discussions. Yet I will share with you that they're not. And none of the reasons or excuses that they use are good ones, right? We always say the bold law is you can have reasons or results, and you can't have both. So one of the major reasons I think that a lot of buyers agents do not conduct the buyer consultation is that they fear that they don't know what to say. That's a big one. I think Monsi kind of touched upon it a little bit. Yet I will ask you, do we not discuss the buying process every single day with people? And do we not discuss the market conditions every single day with people? And do we not answer real estate related questions every single day? It's exactly the structure of a buyer consultation. And we're going to get to the structure as soon as we're done with this particular slide. Yet what I want you to know is that you cannot get this wrong. There's no way for you to get this wrong, and there's a major reason you cannot get this wrong, and that reason is because the person sitting across from you, or whether it be virtual or physical or whatever it may be, they do not know what you're supposed to say. So you cannot get it wrong.
That makes me feel good.
Yeah, you cannot get this wrong. Now, let's say you forget something. I forget something all the time. I always leave those the meeting and say, you know what, I forgot to say this, I forgot to do that. So what? They don't know. I can always mention it in the next conversation, the next meeting, right? No big deal. So we covered what's preventing your traditional agent from conducting one of these. Now let's go to the benefits. How does this benefit them? How does it benefit us? Well, the short version, top right, it increases the likelihood they work with us and nobody else. That's the short version. The longer version is it helps build rapport, trust, loyalty, communicate confidence, competence, expertise. It allows us to set the expectations, them of us of them. If we, again, they do not do this day in and day out. If we do not set the expectations, who will set the expectations? They will set their own expectations. And what I found is when somebody sets their own expectations, they're typically too high. Right. And then what happens when your expectation is too high and those expectations are not met? And it comes down here. People get frustrated. People get anxious. People get upset. They're more likely to do that if we do not set the expectations for them and they set their own. So I always encourage you to prepare your buyer as best you can. Set the expectations as to what happens next. A tip that I always give agents: you want to be better than the majority of agents out there, just use these few words. This is what happens next at the end of every single conversation. You do that, you'll be better than the majority of the agents out there. We're all human beings. We don't know what happens next all the time. And how do we feel when we don't know what happens next? We feel more likely to be anxious, more likely to be frustrated, angry, all those negative emotions. We don't want buyers like that. No, it's our job to lower their anxiety level by preparing them. When we tell them what happens next, they'll feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident. So if you just, again, just at the end of every conversation, just say, this is what happens next. It will make you better than the majority of agents out there. When I say emotions make them act, was also a bold law. It says logic makes them think, emotions make them act. As real estate agents, we don't use enough emotional statements. Even myself, I'm not the most, I don't connect at a very high level like some other people. Yet I noticed that there's some statements that we could be using more. Like, I'm going to take good care of you. I'm going to find a home that you're going to enjoy for many years to come. I'm going to make it happen. Trust me. We don't use, those are all emotional statements. There's no logic involved in any of those statements, yet we don't use it enough, right? We're going to educate them about the buying process, of course. It's not on here yet. We're also going to handle as many objections up front, up to 90% of them even, up front during this discussion. That way, we don't have any surprises. It's a part of setting the expectations. When we handle all the objections up front during this discussion, it's going to be a lot more of a smooth process. And isn't that what we all want? A smooth transaction. You're going to try to make it as smooth as possible. You're going to do what you can to increase the likelihood this makes it to the closing table. Then again, if you don't like smooth transactions and you like surprises, by all means, don't have this discussion. That's okay too. We all have the ability to run our businesses the way we want to. Just understand that there is a better way, and the better way is to conduct one so that we have a more smooth process. So we're obviously going to answer any real estate related questions they have, and we're going to discover exactly what they're looking for so we can take them right to it. Any questions so far? Okay, because I talk really fast I sometimes have to tell myself, like, you got to slow down. But if you want me to repeat something or you want to go over something, I'm going to stop in between each slide and ask you guys if you guys have any questions, anything you want to add, and then I'll move forward. Okay.
I have a question, Ron.
Yeah.
Is it okay to do the buyer's consultation with one of the spouses? Like, let's say one's working and the wife is home. Is that okay to do? Or do you want both of them there?
It's definitely okay. There is a better way. We both know that the better way is to have both, because you're gonna have to have the same conversation twice. I've been in positions where I've done it for one, and at the end of the conversation, actually, I think almost every single time, the spouse was like, I really think that my spouse should hear this too. Can we do this again? So it does benefit us to get them in the same room, whether it be virtual or physical, so that we only have to do it once. All right. And I will tell you, sometimes maybe you don't have the ability to get them into an office, and there's a reason that an office is the ideal setting. An office is an ideal setting because they have no distractions. They're focused on everything that you're saying. That's why it's an ideal setting. Beyond that, when somebody is sitting down, they're more likely to be more compliant. They're more likely to provide you with more yeses. So as we're providing value throughout the conversation, they're also providing us compliance and yeses, which actually increases the likelihood they work with us. So it's a psychological thing too. So there are some benefits of having an in-office setting, yet that doesn't mean that if you can't do it in an office, you shouldn't be doing it. There are times that we do it on the go. And I say we, like me and my team members, we do it on the go because we couldn't get them into an office setting, and that's okay. We're still going to have that conversation. A tip I can give you is if you're going to have the conversation, let's just say at the house, prepare them for that conversation. Say, you know what, Ms. Buyer, I understand. Why don't we do this? Why don't we meet at the house? And while we're there, we'll discuss the buying process, speak about the market conditions, answer any questions you might have. How does that sound? Sounds good, great, wonderful. You're preparing them for that conversation to occur, and they're agreeable to it. So don't just drop it on them. Don't just show up to the house and start, having this conversation with them. And obviously, while they're at the house, you can discuss the buying process in the kitchen. You can talk about the market conditions in the backyard. You can discover what they're looking for in the basement. Yet they do have distractions. They're looking at the house. So that's compared to an office setting. So that's why one's better than the other. Yet it doesn't mean you shouldn't be doing it. Find a way to get it done, to get it in there. It's better than not doing it at all.
Do you make them sign a buyer's agreement?
Sometimes you'll discover that it's not a good fit, and sometimes you'll discover that they're not even close to buying a home. So on occasion, it'll be yes, and on occasion it'll be no. It depends who the client sitting in front of me is. I'll meet with about 100 new buyers a year-ish, give or take, and not all of them are ready to buy. And many of them that I've met over the years still haven't bought. So it just depends on who I'm talking to. If they're ready to go and they see the value that I provide, I say we, because when I say we, I mean my team, that I provide, then I'm going to have them sign an exclusive buyer's agreement, and then we're going to handle the objections at the end. If you want, we can focus a little bit more on that conversation, on that script, after a few more slides. I want to get through a few more slides, and then we can focus on that conversation, okay? All right, let's go next. So value proposition. There's a reason why I have a slide dedicated just to value proposition. What does it cost to hire a buyer's agent in the state of New Jersey? Please remind me. $0. That's right, Nancy. $0. So for the price of $0, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, you can hire an expert or an amateur. Who would you prefer? Think about that for a second, right? So obviously, why wouldn't they want an agent that provides them the most value? Now, here's what I'll tell you. It's a secret. You don't need to provide too much value proposition. One or two will do the job. I'm being honest. One value proposition usually does the job, right? You don't even need a dozen. Now, if you have a dozen, wonderful, great, amazing. Yet you don't need a dozen. One or two will convert your conversations to clients, from customer to client, on a much higher level. Just we'll get to the communication of it in a second, because that's the important part. So what you see in front of you is a list of value propositions that a buyer's agent can provide. And let's just go over them real quick. Expertise and knowledge in previewing homes before they do, and obtaining in multiple offer situations, and over communication and negotiation skills, and accommodation and vendor network and off-market homes, and preparation and guide them and us, and understanding the local market. Those are all value propositions that a buyer's agent can communicate. And there's a few others. There's a lot of the smaller ones. They probably fit somewhere in one of these. Yet what I found, many buyer's agents, it's not that they don't know their value proposition, right? Many of them do know their value proposition. The challenge, the difficulty, the barrier that they have is in the communication of their value proposition. And I'll give you guys an example. And I'm not expecting anybody to answer this out loud, just in your head. When I ask the question, why should I work with you? Why should I choose you? Why should I hire you? What are you going to say at that very moment? Now, it's not that you don't know your value proposition. The challenge for many agents is the communication of their value proposition. So I'm going to give you guys a tip. There's an easy way to communicate value proposition, and it's by saying 3 different things. You can mix it up. You can use one. You can use whatever you want. Is this helpful to you? Does this benefit you? Is this of value to you? Now, how does that work? Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, would it be helpful to you if I saw all the homes before you did? Yes. Well, yes, it would. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, would it benefit you to work with an agent that has a higher likelihood of obtaining in multiple offer situations? Yes. Well, yes, it would. Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, or Mrs. Buyer, would it be of value to you if we were able to accommodate you at any point in time? Doesn't matter day or time, last minute, not last minute. Would that be of value to you? Oh, yes. Well, yes, it would. So do you see how that is? So you're communicating the value proposition, and you're forming the statement in a way that it's a question that's going to elicit or a yes. You're more likely to obtain yes. You're more likely to obtain responses. Now, why is that so important? I'm going to show you in a second why that's so important. So we're going to get into structure, but before we get into structure, do I have any questions about anything so far? All right, just know that, again, you don't need a wealth of value proposition. 1 or 2 will typically convince them. And the majority of buyers, they begin working with the first agent they meet 70% of the time. It's really important to get that face-to-face. If the percentage is that high, that's what research shows. And then, of course, we can communicate our value proposition and convert them at a higher level going from there. So let's go to structure. I left this blank intentionally. I want to give you guys an analogy. We've all been in school, and we've all had to write essays, right? And our teachers, they always requested us to form our essays in a particular type of structure. And that structure had an intro, right? And then it had a conclusion. And in the middle, it had the body. And they always used to say, oh, you should have at least 3 paragraphs in your body. Interestingly enough, that is the same structure of a buyer consultation. Isn't that interesting? So intro, tell me about yourself. Close, conclusion, work with me, hire me, choose me. And in the middle, you can mix and match. There's no right or wrong here. You want to do buying process first, do buying process first. You want to talk about market conditions first, talk about that first. You want to discover what they're looking for, do a needs analysis, do that first. You can mix and match those. Yet that is the structure of a buyer consultation. Now, what I found was that many agents, they find internalizing or memorizing the script of a buyer consultation too overwhelming. It's too long. Well, you can break it down. The intro, tell me about yourself, tell me about your family. It's short. It doesn't take too long. And doing a needs analysis, it's just the basic pre-qualifying questions. And the buying process, it's going to become automatic. You can be able to communicate that, in an instant. And then market conditions, we can talk about that fluently, and then you go for the close. So it's not too overwhelming, when you break it down, you say, you know what, I can talk about that. I can talk about that. I can talk about that. Even if you didn't internalize a buyer consultation at all, you didn't look at any scripts, you can probably wing this. A lot of agents can probably just wing this, just by talking about this, and that. Congratulations, you're done. They benefited from it, and so did you. Right? Now, how does this connect with value proposition? As we are going through our presentations, discussions, we're also communicating value. Would this be helpful to you? Yes. Would this be of value to you? Yes. Would this benefit you? Yes, yes, yes. Value, value, value. Yes, yes, yes. By the time we go for the close, it's an easier yes. Work with me, yes. Hire me, yes. Choose me, yes. You see how that works? So as we're going through the presentation, we're obtaining value. Any questions about the structure? All right, we're doing awesome on time. I usually like to role play at this point, but before I role play, I want you guys to know there's 1,000 different ways you can do a buyer consultation. There's no right or wrong. If you watch 1,000 agents do their buyer consultations, you'll see it slightly different in each and every way. And some agents will have a visual slideshow. And some agents will go off home buyer's guide. They'll go page by page. And some agents will be speaking more, and sometimes it's the client that speaks more. Sometimes they'll just go down a questionnaire. There's all kinds of different ways, and you can mix and match. There's no right or wrong way. It's whatever works best for you. I will never tell you you should do it the way that I do it. If you like or see something you like that I do, right? You can feel free to copy, imitate it, use it, internalize it. Feel free. And if you see something that you don't like, then forget about it. Don't worry about it, right? So you're going to customize it to a form that benefits you most. I just had somebody raise their hand, but I can't see who. Deb?
Deb Dash. Hi.
Hey, Deb Dash.
Just when it comes down to pre-qualifying a buyer, what are, like, I guess, the 3 major points? Because, sometimes even just getting into a conversation with someone that would, be interested in buying, but they're just not even prepared. They don't know, they could get a mortgage, what's the best route. So what is it, or how can we direct them to kind of even get that process started?
Well, that's our job. Our job is to be a guide, to advise, to consult. And the pre-qualifying script on its own is the most important script from a buyer agent standpoint. If you're going to learn one script, have it be your pre-qualification script. I always say that because every avenue, every platform we meet a potential buyer in, we're going to be utilizing that script. It's going to benefit us. We're going to obtain as much information as possible. So when we get into that conversation, and let's just say we get to the point where they're not pre-approved yet, well, would it be helpful to you? Again, watch the way that I formed the question. Would it be helpful to you if I sent over a list of recommended lenders, and there's some of the top lenders in the area, and they're going to take very good care of you? Would that be helpful to you if I send it to you as soon as we're done with this conversation? I'm more likely to elicit a yes in the way that I'm asking the question. So we're guiding them. I would say I'm going to use a different word. We're influencing them. We can't make choices for people, yet we can influence them. So guide is another synonym for it. So we're taking them down the trail, the path. We're creating it for them at times. So it just depends. The pre-qualifying script is really, really important. You want to find out what their motivation is. You want to find out if they need to sell or they rent, and if they need to sell, do they need to sell in order to buy? And if they are renting, is it month to month, or the lease expires shortly? How long have they been looking? If they submitted offers, they've been working with another agent. What's important to them. You want to find out all kinds of interesting and important information, and that will help you know how much time, energy, and effort you also need to invest into that particular consumer, client, prospect, buyer, whatever you want to call them. Did that answer the question? Deb Dash?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
It's a fun name, Deb Dash. All right. So the role play setting. So another tip for you guys, before I actually sit down with them face to face, as soon as I make first contact, and it's generally by phone, what am I doing as soon as I hang up? As soon as I hang up, I'm sending them an email. I'm going to create an email. And in that email, I call it an introduction email. I'm introducing myself. Attached is a kind of a bio with some links to our reviews, a little bit more about our team. And at the very bottom, I'm also attaching a home buyer's guide and a copy of what an offer looks like in New Jersey. They may not be familiar with it, but yet it does give them an opportunity to review that as well. So they have less concerns, less questions about it. Or if they have any questions, we can also review it very, very quickly, very swiftly during the buyer consultation. So somebody unmuted themselves and they're making noise. Hold on. Let's see. No, I can't tell who it is, but whoever's making noise, please unmute. Thank you very much. Now where was I? Got distracted. Right. So the setting. So I'm sending that email over. It does handle an objection. What objection am I handling? When's the first time your traditional agent, not us, when's the first time your traditional agent is presenting an offer, that document that for the first time to their buyers typically? When do you guys think? Your average buyer's agent, when are they presenting that document known as an offer to their clients for the first time? Usually.
When they make their first offer.
Oh, you like this house enough to submit an offer on it? Here's, please sign this legal document you've never seen before in your life. And what are they going to say?
What is this? What is that? What is this?
Yeah, what is this? What is that? Let me review it. Let me read it word for word. Let my attorney take a look at it before I sign it. And how long does that take? Oh, you know, maybe a day, 2 days, 3 days. And what happens to the house that they liked enough to submit an offer on in the meantime?
They lose it.
Yeah, like in Sync says, bye, bye, bye. Right? So what we don't want happening is we don't want it to be a missed opportunity. It's our job to prepare them. And that's kind of what we're doing here. We're handling an objection up front. We're going to send them a copy of what it looks like. We're going to review it with them during the buyer consultation. And that's called handling an objection, so that when it comes time to actually submit the offer, it's sign, click, click, submit. Right? Yes, Deb.
Question. Let's say if, for example, like I have a buyer right now that I'm working with, and there's a couple of properties that we went over, and she had some questions. So I'm just going over what the notes say on the listings. But when it comes down to documents that are included on these listings, are we allowed to share them with the potential buyer?
Yeah, of course. I would recommend it.
Okay.
So if there's a seller disclosure, or there's a survey, or there's a floor plan, or sometimes you have lists of upgrades onto the house, whatever they're sharing, provide it to the client. You will find that many buyers, well, the buyers of today, and I do a lot of first-time home buyers. 92% of my buyers, and I do a lot of buyers, are first-time home buyers, and I can tell you they're what you call an anxious bunch, right? So to alleviate that anxiety, to lessen it, with information, we can do that. And so the more information we provide them, the more comfortable they feel. So provide them as much information as you possibly can so they can make a good real estate decision. And so they don't drag their feet too.
Thank you.
Yep. Let's go back to the role play. We should have enough time. Let me get this screen back up. All right. Let's go. Who wants to volunteer to say a bunch of yeses as a buyer? Going once? Need a volunteer? Going twice?
What?
Danielle, thank you very much. You're volunteering.
Yeah, I just unmuted.
Okay. All right. So yeah, Danielle, we've already spoken. I've already pre-qualified over the phone, which I typically do. And I've sent you the email, and now we're meeting at the office. And let's start always. I got this from Halbands. Let's always start with gratitude. Always be thankful for them spending the time with you to see if I say to see if you're a good fit to work together. Yet the most valuable thing that somebody has is their time. Right? Once we spend it, we do not get it back. That's why it's the most valuable thing that somebody can provide you, give you. So we always thank them for giving us some time to spend with them on that day. So Danielle, you ready to go?
Yep.
All right, let's do this. So Danielle, first off, I want to thank you for spending a little bit of time with me today. I know how valuable your time is, and I'm going to make sure you get value out of our time together. I just want to start off by saying thank you.
Yes. Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. And, our intention today, Danielle, is to provide you as much value. We're going to do that through discussing the buying process, speaking about the market conditions, answering any questions you might have so that you can leave this meeting a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident about the buying process. How does that sound?
That sounds really good.
All right, Danny. So did you get the email that I sent you?
Oh, yeah, I got it.
Okay, great. And did you have a chance to review the documents that were attached?
Yeah, I'm having a little trouble understanding them.
Great, and that's exactly why I have the slide in front of you. Let's take a few minutes to just discuss the document known as an offer that was attached to that email. Are you okay with that?
Yep.
Okay, wonderful. So what I need you to know with the buying process here in New Jersey, it is a very, very, very pro-buyer process compared to any other state in the country. And there's a few different reasons why I say it's a pro-buyer. I'll mention them when we discuss the buying process. Yet you have many, many protections. And what I need you to know is that by signing one of these offers, you're not committed to anybody or anything. Actually, you can theoretically submit as many offers as you like, and you're still not committed to anybody or anything. You see, the most important thing that we're looking to communicate to the other party, the seller, is on page 2, page 3. That's down sales price, down payment, and closing date. The rest of it is a lot of rules, regulations, seller stuff to complete. So if you have any questions at any point in time about the documents, you just let me know. I'm going to answer it in a split second.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Is it okay if we kind of just go over what you mentioned over the phone?
Sure.
Yeah, you mentioned you were looking to move. You're currently renting. You're looking to move by March, which is right around the corner, and you're looking for a home for 2 people. And commute's important to you, and you have some pets, and you wanted a yard that's sizable for them to run around. Is that pretty accurate?
Yep.
Okay, great. And you said 2 bedrooms are okay, but 3 would be amazing.
Yeah.
And I wanted to ask you, when you say yard, what's a sufficient yard for you? What does that look like?
I would say something with enough room for a pool, for sure.
Okay, and what size pool are we talking?
I would say like a small in-ground. Definitely want to make an in-ground pool and put some fences around so that the neighbors don't, see me.
Okay, and does it already have to have a pool, or are you okay with a yard that's large enough?
I'm okay with the yard.
fit
That's
one?
all. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we'll gauge that. We'll get a pretty good idea after we see a few yards, and you can provide me your feedback. I'll get a good idea of what that looks like exactly.
Cool.
And you did mention a fence. Does the property need to have a fence, or are you okay with no fence?
I'm okay with no fence. I could put it in.
Okay, great. Wonderful. Is there anything else that I should know about you and your needs, your family?
Nope. Just that we got a lot of cats.
Okay. Well, I'll make sure that the area that we're looking is a cat-friendly environment. How does that
Cat
sound?
only.
Okay,
Sorry, I
wonderful.
got this one. He's crying.
It's okay. We're pet-friendly around here. So the buying process. Is it okay if we take a few minutes to discuss the buying process?
Sure.
Okay, wonderful. So I like to simplify things for my clients to make sure that they remember the information. So I like to break down the buying process into 3 separate phases, Danny. Let's just say we find you the perfect home, the right home. We get an accepted offer. Once we do that, I like to break it down to 3 phases. Your first phase of the buying process is your attorney review period. After that is your inspection period. And after that, it's your mortgage contingency period. So look, if we go into a little bit more detail in each individual phase.
Sure.
All right. So let's talk about the attorney review period. So yes, we found you the right home, the perfect home. We have now an accepted offer, and now we're going to forward your accepted offer to your attorney. Do you know which attorney you're going to be using to represent you in the transaction, Danny?
No, if you could recommend one for me, that would be great.
Yeah, I can definitely recommend it. Would it be helpful if I send you a list of top attorneys that'll take very good care of you, charge flat rates, and are very responsive as soon as we're done here today?
For sure.
Yes, I'll do that for you. So what I need you to know about attorney review is that any party can cancel for any reason, don't even need a reason. Now, I'll share with you that there's probably a dozen reasons why a buyer can cancel, yet there's only one good reason why a seller would cancel. And considering today's market, it does happen actually quite often, that reason is the seller gets a better offer while we're in attorney review. So that's really the only reason why they would cancel. Yet there are ways to protect you as a buyer. It's to complete attorney review as quickly and swiftly as we possibly can. That's why the attorney selection is so important. And once we complete attorney review, we're now considered to be under contract. Once we're under contract, the seller cannot cancel, but the buyer can. But we're going to get to that in a minute. The way that we're going to utilize attorney review to come to agreement on all terms and conditions. That's the goal during attorney review. And the way that the attorneys do that, Danny, is they're going to create a legal document. It's called a rider. And on this rider, there's going to be a lot of terms, clauses, sentences on it, and they're going to communicate back and forth these riders until you come to agreement on all terms and conditions. Once you do that, we will complete attorney review.
Perfect.
Okay, so far?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So let's say, yes, we came to agreement on all terms and conditions. We completed attorney review. And now we're going to enter the inspection period. It's pretty self-explanatory. We're going to obtain a home inspector. They're going to conduct a home inspection. They'll provide us a report. We're going to review that report together at that point. We're going to create a short list of items. If there's any concerns that you would like to request the seller address, typically sellers address in one of three ways. They'll say, yes, I'll fix it. No, I won't fix it, but I'll provide you a credit, or just a plain out no. There'll be a little bit of back and forth. And then we'll move forward. At this point, Danny, it's a common question I get asked very, very often. Well, what if we can't come to agreement on inspection items? A lot of buyers have that concern. Well, again, it's a very pro-buyer process, Danny. If you can't come to agreement with the seller on inspection items, buyer can cancel without penalty. That's probably one of the or if not the strongest protection the buyer has during the buying process. Any questions so far?
No.
Okay, wonderful. So, Danny, I need you to notice, I didn't say anything about deposit. I didn't say anything about money, anything about consideration, exchanging hands, nothing like that, right? That's also a reason why I say it's so pro-buyer. You see, the timeline on providing what's called, in our neck of the woods, the additional deposit is 10 days after completion of attorney review. That's the default on page 3 of your offer, if you look at it. And by then, we've already conducted the home inspection typically. Your inspection contingency period is 14 days after conclusion of attorney review. So you have a little bit more time for that. So again, you're only providing your additional deposit, any money, to the other party well into the transaction, about 2/3 in, which is, I think it's amazing compared to other states. Now, let's just say theoretically, we've provided the additional deposit, and we have not come to agreement on inspection contingency items just yet. What does that mean? Let's say theoretically we cannot. What happens to the deposit? Well, nothing. You get it back. You see, buyer can cancel without penalty, which means you get your deposit back. Did you get that?
Yeah.
Okay, wonderful. So yes, the goal is to get through the inspection contingency, and the goal is to arrive at the outcome, the accomplishment, the achievement you're looking for, which is to be in this home. You've already envisioned you and your cats in this house, and we're going to make that happen for you. So at this point, we've concluded the attorney review, we've concluded the inspection period, and now we're going to enter the final phase. I like to call it the mortgage contingency period. At this point, we're going to provide that additional deposit, which, by the way, is generally about 5%. It's usually between 5 and 10%. Now, I know you mentioned when we spoke on the phone that you're putting 20% down, and you've already been pre-approved. And what I need you to know is that at this point, let's say we submit the 5% as the additional deposit. Well, what happens to the rest of the funds? Well, the rest of the funds, Danny, are actually due at closing. So that 15% remaining plus your closing costs will all be due at the closing table. Okay.
And that's
So at
pretty
this point,
standard.
we'll provide the deposit. We're going to go ahead and order the appraisal. The appraisal report will then head towards the desk of your underwriter's your lender's underwriter. They'll review your whole file and they'll provide you with what's called a mortgage commitment letter. I also like to call it a conditional loan approval, and I call it so since it says at the very top, Danny, you've been approved for this house for this amount. Provide us these list of conditions, and we'll give you full loan approval. So we're going to rush to submit all these conditions to your lender. We'll fulfill all the conditions, and we're going to wait for those magic words, which are clear to close. Once we hear those magic words, we're going to go ahead and schedule your closing date and time with your attorney, and you will be a new homeowner, and so will your cats.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you, Danny, that while I said that very quickly and very smooth, buying transactions are not typically that smooth and that quick. They generally have issues of some sort, and we can't always forecast those issues. It's kind of like a roller coaster ride. There's a lot of ups and downs. Yet what I can promise you is that if there aren't any issues that arise, that I will present you with the best possible solutions to help us move forward towards the outcome, the result you're looking for, always. Would that be helpful to you?
Absolutely.
Okay, great. So did you have any questions about anything up to this point?
Oh, my one question was, is the 5% for the additional deposit, that's pretty standard?
Yeah, around here, yes. The only time that it's less is if you have less of a down payment. So if you're putting 3% or 3.5%, or possibly 0% if you're VA, then you would put a lower down payment down.
Gotcha, thanks.
Or lower additional deposit down, I'm sorry.
Yeah, okay.
All right, is it okay if we discuss the market conditions for a few minutes?
Sure.
Great. So, Dan, do you know the difference between a seller's market and a buyer's market?
Am I acting as me or the buyer?
You can, either one works.
Kind of, yes, a little
Okay,
bit.
great. So yeah, Danny, in a seller's market, which is what we're in now for the most part, the sellers are getting what they're asking for, even more sometimes. You have very low supply and very high demand. And in a buyer's market, there's a lot of inventory, a lot of options for the buyers. They have more room to negotiate. And right now, Danny, we are in a funny market. And what I mean by that is that there's two types of products. There's always two types of products. You have your seller market products and you have your buyer market products, right? And it all comes down to how they're priced out. Now, what we'll find is that anywhere we go, 85% of the inventory will be your buyer market type product, where they're going to get activity, yet they're going to be overpriced and they won't get any offers. And then the other 10 to 15% are your seller market type product, which are priced correctly, even underpriced here today, multiple offers gone tomorrow. Question for you, Danny. Do you happen to know which type of property you're walking into at any point in time?
Yeah.
No, and that's exactly what I'm here for. You see, Danny, every property that we walk into, I will always tell you, hey, Danny, this is underpriced. They're going to get like 5 to 10 offers. I'll communicate all the information back to you so you can make a good real estate decision. Or Danny, don't look at the list price. They overpriced it. Not you, but another buyer is not willing to pay 500, but another buyer is willing to pay only 470. Would that be helpful to you if I did that for every house that we walked into?
Yes.
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to do. Do you know the difference between a salesperson and a consultant, Danny?
Maybe.
Yeah, and salespeople, they try to make a sale, right? They're trying to sell you something, trying to push product. And a consultant advises. They listen to what you're looking for, and then they tell you the best option to move forward and go get it. Which one would you prefer, Danny?
Consultant for sure.
Yeah, and that's exactly what we are. You see, we sell more real estate than anybody in the entire MLS, and I'm always going to advise you what the best strategy, best path, best way forward is to help you arrive at the conclusion you're looking for, which is to be in a home that you're going to enjoy. Sounds good?
Sounds great.
All right. Danny, you mentioned that you already got pre-approved. You got pre-approved with Bank of America. You're putting 20% down. Would it be helpful to you if, while you're shopping around, I can recommend some mortgage brokers that can blow the Bank of America's interest rate, customer service, and fees out of the water for you, along with some other advantages.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so there's some local mortgage brokers that by using them, you will also strengthen your offers, yet they will also provide you better, they will offer you better interest rate, better savings, and they'll take good care of you, I promise. If I'm recommending them, they'll definitely take good care of you. So I'm going to send that list over along with the attorneys. Would that benefit you?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, great. No problem. And Danny, did you have any questions about anything up until now?
No,
Okay, great. So how about we go house hunting? How does that sound?
sounds great.
All right, let's go find you a home for you and your cats. Let's do it.
Thank you.
All right. So I covered everything, right? I covered the intro. I did a recap of the pre-qualifications just so it shortens the role play. I did the buying process. I spoke at the market conditions. We covered it. Not so scary, right? It took exactly 17 minutes. It always takes me about 17 minutes unless I have a role play partner that's giving me a little bit more pushback. Yet we covered it. We covered mostly everything. Now we can that was a 5-point presentation. We can add points. Let's just say I want to talk about for sale by owners. Let's say I want to talk about open houses. Let's say I want to talk about my KW app. Whatever you want to talk about, whatever point you want to insert, go ahead and insert. But that's just the basic fundamental type of buyer consultation, discussion, presentation, strategy session, whatever you want to call it. Any questions, comments, opinions, issues?
That was pretty thorough, and I'm just like, I was actually blown away because I'm like, I don't know a lot of the stuff that you just said. So I feel like, if I had to do a buyer consultation, I would not have all that information.
I've done it 10,000 times. So, I'm going to say it a little bit differently than you, yet I do trust you're getting value out of today just by listening and saying, you know what, I can add this, I can add that, I can do this, I can do that. And that's the whole point of today. So thank you for that.
I like that. You mentioned,
It-
do you know what type you're walking into, overpriced or underpriced?
It's a value proposition. Yeah, and it comes from expertise. So that's another thing that we're going to be building as agents. We talk about it a lot. How do you build expertise? It's a very simple way. The simplest way to build expertise is just go see some homes.
Right.
And do it consistently over time, right? So let's just say theoretically, I don't know what town. We all live in different towns, but let's say you live in ABC town. If you go see all the inventory in the town, in the niche that you work in or live in or want to create a niche in, you're an expert in that inventory. Great, wonderful. You can speak to that inventory at a much higher level than your traditional agent that has never been in the area, doesn't know what he's walking into. And now, if you do it over time, you do it over 6 months, you do it over a year, you do it over 2 years, you're going to have some pretty amazing special abilities where you can really walk into any house and say, you know what, a buyer is willing to pay X for this house. And that happens over time. Yet we have to go see some homes. That we have to do the footwork. And we also have to keep track of the local market conditions. See what type of movement's going on. I would recommend you do it not just once a day. You do it all, like pretty much throughout the day, several times. So if you want, you can put your town or your areas that you'd like to focus on a hot sheet. Put it on a hot sheet. Any movement in that town, you'll see it. And over time, you'll have that ability as well. So that's a value proposition. When I say, and I said it a few times, would that be helpful to you? Would that benefit you? Would that be of value to you? I said it in different ways, but I must have said it about, I don't know, somewhere between 6 and 8 times at least. So I'm communicating value, and I'm obtaining yeses throughout. I also did some soft closes, like sounds good, sounds okay. And she said yes, right? So there's different ways to go about it. Now we do have like 7 minutes left. Let's go back to I don't even know if Stella's here. I don't see her, but she mentioned something. When we're going for the exclusive buyers agency, when we're going at the end, we've communicated so much value to them. They're thinking, I don't want to work with anybody else at this point. So, and if they give you some objections, then it has something to do with our presentation. We need to improve something in our presentation if they're providing us objections. And there's some easy objection handlers that I always use and that my teammates always use that always gets around it. And they're like, when they've never seen this document before in their life. And I'll tell you at the end, let's just say where we said, do you have any questions, Danny? And she said, no, we're good. Okay, let's go house hunting. Well, instead of saying that, I can just transition into the close for the exclusive buyers agency. Now all of a sudden I'm saying, well, Danny, do you see how much value me and my team we can provide you? And she'll say, yeah, it's amazing, whatever. And great. So do you know what it's going to cost to hire us, to choose us, to work with us? And she'll be like, no, I don't know. And a lot of buyers don't know, by the way. So it's not going to cost you anything. It's going to cost you exactly $0 to work with us, which, we're the experts around here. How does that sound? Do you think that we're a good fit to work together? And she'll say, yes, great. The only thing, in order for us to begin working together, I need you to sign this agent commitment letter. I don't call it an exclusive buyers agency. I think it's less threatening when I call it an agent commitment letter. And a lot of times they'll say, sure, and they'll sign on it, and there's no pushback. And sometimes they'll be like, well, what's this? Well, Danny, this is a document that says, I'm the agent, you're the client, and I'm going to take really, really good care of you. Sign here, please. And then they'll be like, no, okay. I'll say, well, Danny, I want you to look at this line right over here. And it says, this agreement is only for 30 days, Danny. You see, if I can't do my job in 30 days, if I can't find you the right home, the perfect home in 30 days, I'm not doing something right. And it's going to require us to come back, sit back down and review exactly what you're looking for. So it's only for 30 days. How does that sound? No, I don't feel comfortable signing this. Okay, you know what? Why don't we do this? If at any point in time, Danny, you don't like my service, you're not satisfied with my service, you don't like what I say, you don't like what I do, all you have to do is text me, email me, call me, whatever you want. Let me know that you're not satisfied. I'm going to take this document. I'm going to rip it up. We're going to shake hands, stay friends, go our separate ways. How does that sound? No, you know what? I still don't feel comfortable signing it. Okay, you know what, Danny? Let's do this. I already scheduled 2 homes for us to go see today. Why don't we go see them? We'll call it a trial run. If you like what you see, we're going to go ahead and get this document signed. If you don't like what you see, we'll shake hands, go our separate ways. How does that sound? Okay, fine. So there's like different ways. Those are, what did I say, like 4 different objection handlers that I just gave you. It doesn't usually get that far. It almost never goes that far. On a rare exception, rare occasion, it might get that far. Now, generally, when they're providing us objections to working with us or signing one of those documents, it's typically something in our presentation that needs to be improved because we didn't communicate enough value during the presentation. Right? The majority of buyers surveyed, they didn't sign exclusive buyers agency, and when asked the question, well, why didn't you sign one? The top response, because they didn't ask. All you have to do is ask. They'll sign it. Isn't that interesting? They wouldn't. They're willing to sign it, but the agents are too afraid to ask. What they're afraid of, I'm not sure. It's just a question, right? We're the ones that the way that we think about it, it prevents us from taking action, from doing something. So if I give you guys a recommendation, just ask. Just that simple. You'll be pleasantly surprised as to what the response is the majority of the time. Okay. So we are pretty much out of time. Any last questions, comments, concerns, issues?
Can I ask you a quick question?
Of course.
For the purposes of, if the buyers are very active and they keep sending you, I want to see this house, I want to see this house, I want to see this house. What's the best response? Because otherwise it's going to be a full-time job to continue showing it to them. But yet again, you don't want to appear like you are ignoring them, because then they'll sign with somebody else at an open house possibly. So what's the best way to handle that situation?
The buyer of today is very instant gratification. We need to respond quickly. If you don't respond quickly, you do risk losing them. Yet that doesn't mean we can't guide them. We can't navigate them. I have many, many clients that send me properties. Yet if I know exactly what they're looking for, I tell them this is not a good property.
Mhm.
And I can tell them this is not a good property because it's a shared driveway, because it's too small of a backyard. It's in a flood zone. It's in a busy street. The kitchen's too small. The 3rd bedroom's too small. If I know exactly what they're looking for, I can point that out to them and save everybody time, them and me. But you have to know what they're looking for. If we don't take the time to discover what they're looking for, it's exactly what we're going to be doing. We're going to be glorified door openers. And that's not necessarily our job description.
I have one right now who wants to see a house, and I advised them that the listing said that they had flooding in the basement and that there would be no repairs, and they still want to see it.
Okay, great. And what I like to do in those type of situations, if I
Yeah.
tell them, hey, listen, this is not really a good fit for you, yet I will definitely schedule it for you. You know what I do?
Mhm.
I schedule another one that I think that they're gonna like at the same time.
Well, I did try to have 3. Now they said they only want to see the one.
I get it. Push for that one and tell them, hey, listen, it doesn't cost anything to go see a house, and it's only like 2 minutes away. I really recommend saying this. Is it okay if we go see this one after we go see this one?
Okay.
Just push for it a little bit.
Okay.
A lot of times we see a house, man, that's the one. That's the perfect one, and they just don't they just don't see eye to eye. I guess and the one thing I can tell you about pictures, they're deceiving, and they're
Yes.
deceiving. They're 100% deceiving 100% of the time.
Mhm.
That's also why it's so important to actually preview homes, to see homes. So if you've already seen the homes, sometimes I walk into a home just to preview the home, and all of a sudden I'm thinking of a client, this would be perfect for, and I call them and I text them, and sometimes it works out. So it's important that if you have another job, I get it. If you have another full-time job, I get it. But if this is your full-time job, this is what you do day in, day out, we should be seeing the inventory in our niches, in the areas that we want to be working in, be experts in, right? And we should also be strategic about our lead gen activities in the same sense, where if I'm doing open houses, I want to do open houses in this town first. If I can't find in this town first, then I'll go to the next town. If I'm calling expires for sale by owners, door knocking, networking, whatever it is that I'm doing, prioritize your area, be strategic with your lead gen, because what happens is if you're focusing on a particular area and you're doing a lot of open houses in the same area, if you're door knocking in the same area, if you're cold calling in the same area over and over and over again, who are we talking to? Who are we meeting? We're talking to buyers and sellers that want to buy and sell in those areas. That's how we create the niches. That's how we create the expertise at the same time. So it's a lot of moving pieces. Yet you're gonna do the best you can. We all wake up in the morning and we're gonna do the best we can. And you all have the ability to offer something special to your clients that nobody else can, because there's only one of you. We just have to find out what that special thing is. So that develops over time. We are in overtime. That being said, we are 5:02. I do want to thank everybody for being here today. I do welcome your phone calls, your text messages, your emails. Reach out to me anytime. I'm always available to you. I'm always glad to help. Let me know if you need anything. I do want to wish everybody a great night. Be well. I'll see you tomorrow morning on the
Thank
morning
you.
mindset call, guys.
Thank
Ron,
you.
thank you so
Good night.
much. Ron, where can I find this video since it's being recorded?
It should be on the coaching lobby, and eventually it will be on the BCP YouTube channel as well.
It will be on BCP YouTube channel.
Eventually, yes. I don't know how long it's going to take Jason to put it on there yet. Since it was live streamed on the coaching lobby's Facebook page, then you can find it there likely as well.
I'm not in the coaching.
No, the coaching lobby is just a Facebook page.
Right. Don't you have to be in coaching to be on that Facebook page?
I don't think so. I think I'll let you in. We'll make an exception just for you, Holly. How does that sound?
Thanks, Ron.
All right. Take care, everybody.